This is Bolton clarifying and kind of backpedaling on remarks that he made earlier in Tel Aviv that angered Ankara and specifically President Erdogan, which led to canceling the meeting with Bolton. Basically clarifying that President Trump had received assurances from President Erdogan, that the Kurds will not be harmed, and that's never really been the intention of Turkey to begin with. They want to eliminate YPG and terrorist elements within the Kurdish militias. They want to be a stabilizing force in the region, and they want to be able to replace the areas that had been occupied or held by Kurdish militias with representative councils, plans that were laid out in a New York Times article earlier this week.
And how do you expect Turkey to react, Ahmed?
I think they're going to react the same way that they had already reacted before. They have a detailed plan, a comprehensive plan that has already been laid out and has been repeated. That they have experience in dealing with terrorist groups like Daesh, like Al-Qaeda, like others, but they also want to make sure that they take lessons from what happened with Iraq, rather than just completely withdrawing without having a plan forward, but carefully withdrawing, handing over power to Turkey to provide for security services, but then bringing together a stabilizing force of Syrian fighters that would keep the peace, and then have the people of those regions to be able to govern themselves in some sort of locally elected councils. In the Kurdish areas, it would be led by Kurdish leaders that represent their communities, not necessarily YPG militias that have different agendas and pose a threat to Turkey. At the end, it seems Turkey is not interested in occupying Syria, but stabilizing the region, that northern part of Syria, to make sure that groups like ISIS or Daesh and Al-Qaeda don't reemerge. When there's a void, when there's lawlessness, when there's a lack of security, that's where those groups can come back to power, and they're interested in securing their border from Kurdish militias and YPG or PKK terrorist groups.
So we are seeing a lot of back and forth in the comments from US officials. I mean, why the confusion? Do you think there's a sense of strategy when it comes to Middle East?
Well, it's hard to see what the comprehensive strategy is. There's a shift right now, and the U.S. government is a large government, and sometimes it takes a long time to make that shift happen. They're moving away to recalibrate and to shift towards to painting that Iran is the biggest threat in the region, and they're moving in that direction. At the same time, there's been a lot of changes within the Trump administration as far as the Secretary of State position has been changed. The Secretary of Defense now is in transition with Mattis resigning, and even the John Bolton is kind of new on the job. And all of them come in with their different agendas. John Bolton is one of these neocons that wants to continue to go to war in the region to protect Israel's interests. He pushed for the war in Iraq. He wants to push for the war in Iran. So these individuals come in, even though they're in the same administration, they're working for President Trump and they have to follow his orders. They also come in with their own agendas, and you see some of that play out in some of the media commentary, and it can lead to confusion. But at the end, the president did give the order to withdraw from Syria. These different agencies are scrambling to be able to make that happen while maintaining somewhat of a status quo at the end.